Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the honor of release. Today, we've got Netflix 150th film. It's the 2019 romantic comedy, Someone Great, directed by Jennifer Kaytin Robinson. It stars Gina Rodriguez, Brittany Snow, DeWanda Wise, Lakeith, Stanfield, and Peter Vack. I'm Jesse, and I am here with MJ. How are you?
I'm good, Jesse. I'm good. How are you, mate?
150 episodes. What an achievement. What a milestone, I was going to say.
Well, I know because we've done more than 150 because we have done bonus episodes here and there, and we've done a few sort of fan voted episodes from movies out of order. But this is the 150th in the order of release. So Netflix release original films, and should we clarify how we do? Obviously, we don't do documentaries. We don't do TV series. We just do feature movies, I guess, so to speak, and they have to be international Netflix originals, so not just ones that are in Australia like we are. So this is the 150th Netflix original that they've released. Is that kind of right, Jesse?
100%. You bang on. This is the 150th that's available worldwide on Netflix. Since we have started, we do have two that have been taken off that list. So way back at the start, we did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the Sword of Destiny, the sequel. That since it's being sold as a Netflix original, has had a theatrical release and distribution through China. So and China don't have Netflix, so that's sort of been dropped off the list. And the other one was a French film that we did a while ago called Blockbuster, which was a bit of a romantic type of film, which has dropped off too. But we're still going to claim them because when we did them, they were in that on that list.
Bloody oath.
Yeah. So I'm constantly checking the upcoming ones because in a couple of episodes' time, there's one that's that we make this list ages ago, and one that sort of dropped off. And I've looked at it and I can't work out why it's been dropped off. So yeah, we'll just keep an eye on it. And it's there's 150 films, probably 140 of them I probably would never have watched.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this, right? But I do want to shout out to you, credit to you for being the anchor of this and really running with it. I know it started off a long time ago with three of us. Then obviously moved to two of us, and then I took my little sabbatical for a little bit and had a couple of months off, and you were doing all the heavy lifting on your own. So Jesse, well done, mate. You've been you are the face of Flix Forum.
I don't think so, because without it's not nothing without someone to bounce off. So it's been good for the two of us to do a majority of these together anyway. And we've had a couple of guests along the way too, which has been nice. And we'll just keep chugging along, keep giving it a crack and see how much further we can go. And we've mentioned it many times. We probably thought we would have been up to date by now, but it just hasn't happened.
Netflix is just going bananas. I think I checked the other week. I might have even sent you a message that they did their this is what's coming out of Netflix this month, and there was like 20 original films or something ridiculous in a month. It's like, how the hell are we supposed to keep up with your Netflix? We're trying to do your dirty work by promoting your films on our enormous podcast platform, and you just jumping ahead of us.
Yeah, and who knows what's gonna especially with the way that the world's heading towards streaming releases and studios trying to dish off films, they may just keep adding to that collection in a large volume.
But you know what? The beauty is, as film lovers, we are still getting lots of films. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the demise of the theatrical experience, and whether a lot of cinemas around the world are going under and the like. At least we still get to see new films being made. And, the more streaming platforms that we have, the more likely that we are to see little films that may not have been looked at finally getting to see the light of day. Don't get me wrong, I love the theatrical experience. I'm never going to stop going to the movies, and I don't want to lose that, but it is nice to see lots of movies at our disposal.
Yes, completely agree. But it's been a good little look back at what's been going on, but we should get into the actual film that we're talking about, which is titled Someone Great. And we start off with our fast flicks and our quick summary of what it's all about. So what is this one about for you?
Yes, Someone Great. So Fast Flicks is keen to have one big night with her gals before leaving town after dealing with a breakup. Jenny goes down memory lane to discover why her relationship didn't work and what is the best thing for her in the future.
Nice. I've gone more broad. I've just said that it's a group of friends that are all dealing with relationship issues. They plan one last epic night out in New York City together before they go their separate ways.
I prefer yours. Mine didn't really capture the vibe of the film very well. I think yours did a good job of that.
Yeah, thank you. That's very nice. Well, this is my favorite part, to sit back and listen to you explain how this film has arrived on our Netflix services.
Yeah, I don't have too much exciting for you, but I will actually start by saying there's going to be spoilers in this podcast. So if you haven't seen Someone Great, we're probably going to ruin it for you. So if you want to see it and you don't want it ruined, then watch it. Come back to us, and you can enjoy the conversation and be part of the conversation on social as well. So, the inspiration for this movie, I have since discovered, was largely based on the album 1989 by Taylor Swift. And there's a track on that album specifically that was a strong inspiration for it. That was a track called Clean. And ironically, the film, once it was released, actually inspired Taylor Swift to write the song Death by a Thousand Cuts, which was on her 2019 album Lover. I don't mind Taylor Swift. I don't think I like that Lover album though. I think I like a lot of country music, so she's got obviously those country roots. Anyway, I'm digressing.
Don't worry, I'm the same. I saw Taylor Swift in concert, so I like her too.
Yeah,
it's fine.
So our director Jennifer Kaytin Robinson also cited the 2017 song "Supercut" by Lorde as another inspiration for the film. It's interesting. Not often you hear of a movie inspired by songs, but clearly there's this notion of women taking their own life and their own relationships back on themselves and making a decision that's the right decision for them. And that's obviously the real essence of this film and what she was trying to portray. So she wrote this film as well, Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, and it was basically came to public attention in Feb 2018. Gina Rodriguez was signed on to star in the film. And yeah, from then on, it seemed to be a pretty smooth transition of the other actors coming on board. And it's that 2 months later, April 2, they started principal photography. And then it was a year later, April 2019, when the film was released as a Netflix original on Netflix. I didn't actually see, and I'm hoping that you maybe did find this out, where and when Netflix came on board in this process. It seems like it was not a big deal, so maybe they're on from the very start.
Yeah, sorry, don't have an answer for you. Most of the I've only got what you've got, really. I think that they must have jumped on somewhere. Usually they make a big deal about it if they were there from the start. So I don't know. It's a tricky one. Who knows? If anyone does know, let us know. Yeah.
But generally they make a big deal out of it by saying it was great to work with Netflix and, they gave us full creative control. But then otherwise you often find out when they came on board because obviously either another production company was like, no, we can't distribute this or whatever. So yeah, I just couldn't find anything.
Yeah, good point. The title for this one, across the world, the only differences realistic were in multiple languages. They changed the word someone from being someone great. So let's change that word great to someone extraordinary, special, good, wonderful, and even cool. So someone cool was the title around the world there. The best one was in Japan. It was called Someone Great for Those Who Shine. I just thought that was a nice little title in Japanese. The only other little bit of trivia, I guess, is that the title or the character names for Nate, Jenny, and Blair are all the same as characters on Gossip Girl, which is also in New York City. So I think there's a new Gossip Girl remake that's just come out recently. So anyone that's into Gossip Girl, let us know.
Did you watch Gossip Girl?
I watched the first season, and then I was like, "This isn't for me." So I gave up.
Yeah, my wife watched it, and I never really got into it at all. I didn't know there was a new one though. Is it like this a remake?
A reimagining, I think,
like
from what I hear.
Okay.
From what I hear, it's a reimagining. So,
okay.
Yeah, interesting. What are the consensus on this on critics and audiences saying about it?
Yeah, I have to say, I'd never heard of this movie. I know we have a list of the movies that we cover on the podcast. So that's how I'd heard of it. But it's got a 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb of 20,000 ratings, and even better with 3.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd with nearly 40,000 ratings. It's obviously got a decent cast, so there's some familiarity with the names there, but really popular and lots of people, pretty good results in terms of numbers. So yeah, I'd never heard of it.
It's good. I think I got my numbers a little while ago, and by the look of things, it's gone up since I looked at it maybe
That's
2 weeks
weird.
ago. So when I looked, it was only a 3.1 on Letterboxd. So for it to move that much, and by the sounds of it, it's possibly had about 3,000 extra ratings too. So that's big in a couple of weeks for a film that's a couple of years old.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's being promoted somewhere. Who knows? But the only other one that I'll add in is Rotten Tomatoes, where it sits at actually certified fresh on 83%. So that's on 53 critic reviews, and the audience has had it a little bit lower at 65% on a bit over 500. So overall, fairly positive.
Fairly positive movie. I remember you saying that your wife wouldn't watch a movie if it wasn't at least 3 stars on Letterboxd, which is tough.
Very
It's
tough.
tough ask, but this is something that she would sit down and watch. According to that,
Probably could have watched this one with her too. And
yeah,
maybe that leads us into our early thoughts. What are your early thoughts for this one?
I thought it was okay. I think the leads had a really nice connection. I genuinely felt like they were mates, but it weirdly had this realistic feel to it, which actually comes off a little bit strange on screen. I really bought into the vibe of it, but I kind of don't know how to articulate this, because the idea of making something realistic is a good thing, because it means that you can connect with it and relate to it. But I think there's a level of theatrics that needs to be really present in movies, because if you actually just like watched you and your mates going out drinking and stuff, it's actually pretty boring viewing. And I just think that they tried so hard to make these friendships really realistic that it didn't translate that well on screen. It felt a bit weird and forced at times, but I don't know. That's just how I felt. And I can understand how people feel the exact opposite. So I get that. But I just think I had a bit of a lack of connection to a lot of the components in the film. I didn't really feel like I was part of the journey. I never got too invested.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, last week when we sort of said we were doing this film this week, it was like 150th, a rom-com for MJ. I was like sitting there perfectly for him. So, and, I think I mentioned, I've mentioned many times before that this type of genre is not necessarily the type of film that ticks the boxes for me. But I dug this.
I knew you were leading to that.
Like it's nothing new, but the characters, the chemistry, I really, really enjoyed this. I thought this was excellent.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, bring it on. Let's hit some characters. Who do you want to start off with?
Let's start out with Jenny, who was played by Gina Rodriguez. I thought that Gina Rodriguez was really overdoing this. She basically buzzed throughout this whole film, and I guess I never really got the opportunity to connect with her because of that. I thought she was just doing too much every single scene. With that said, I appreciate her journey and her arc, and I think so much of this film is obviously about growing up and figuring out what you need to do in order to realize your dreams, or even just realizing your potential. And nothing really does it better than going through the stages of a failed relationship to decide whether you want to, in her case, stay somewhere for love or leave to do something for yourself. And I think that was a pretty cool little arc that she goes on. Really, it's like a 24-hour arc, but obviously we sort of skip time and go back and really understand where she's at.
Yeah, I think I probably agree that the performance was probably a little bit hammed up. And I think what I liked about her was that often we see characters that are like, we mentioned she's gone through this breakup, and it's a long-term relationship, 9 years or whatever it was. And this breakup's occurring because she's actually following her dreams, going to work for Rolling Stone, having to move location. And I think what I liked about her that we don't often see in these types of movies, where someone's really down and out and upset about a breakup, they'll sit there and cry in a pit of sorrow for ages. Where I thought that it was good that she wasn't shy to share her struggles. Like and that was, I know it was done through flashbacks a lot, but I didn't mind that, she was out and about with her friends and going through these moments while they were there. And I don't know, I liked that.
That's cool. That's a good point. No one wants to sit there and watch someone wallow for 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Who have you got next?
I've got Erin next, and I appreciated that her story kind of started to really blossom because she's got that dry, disconnected sense of humor and almost state of being, but she kind of stepped out from being this buddy sidekick, which I was a bit worried that that's what her role was going to be in this entire film. And like, she was a really, really good friend. But fortunately, she sort of became more than that. And I got to a point where I was almost more invested in her story and her trying to, she's literally going through, literally is a bad word. She's basically going through the same, struggles as Jenny, in the sense that she needs to grow up and figure out what she wants to do to take the next step. In her situation, it's about owning her feelings and being true to herself. So it's a little bit different, but I got really invested in her story, which was good for someone I was worried was going to be this little buddy sidekick character.
Yeah, I agree. I think I connected straight away because I didn't mind a few of the one-liner comedic points from her. They were quite good, and then I think her character is that ideal of struggling to commit with that relationship and work, and they make comments about her just living this lifestyle of a younger self. And I liked the follow through with the explanation towards the end of this past hurt that she's experienced, which is sort of she hasn't been able to deal with, and now she's sort of at that stage that she's comfortable to do that. And I think I liked that little arc that we saw, even though it probably could have been her film if they wanted to move it that way, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And that obviously leads to our third member of our gal pal trio, Blair. I was probably less invested in Blair. I like Brittany Snow, but I was probably less invested in Blair, but she sort of complements the other two nicely. I think she's almost got her shit together too much, to the point where she's living a boring, dull lifestyle, and she kind of didn't even realize how she got there. And that works. That's relatable. And it sort of took her friends to strip it all back to remember how important it is to have fun and to follow what you're interested in doing and what you want to do. And that was kind of cool to see that happen as well, albeit to a lesser scale than the others.
Yeah, I think I liked that. Well, I didn't like the introduction to her because I was like, oh, not a corny character that's going to be over the top, a bit of a prude almost, and this relationship that just seemed picture perfect 1950s sitcom sort of thing. And I liked that they stated straight away pretty much that she wasn't happy, and I like that they broke that up early on. And that's another example of getting over this type of relationship, and it was good to see her start to take risks throughout, leading up to understanding what she can do to live her best life. So it wasn't as annoying a character that she could have been.
Yeah, good call. And I think they needed her too for that stability in that friendship group to some extent as well.
Yeah, excellent.
The only other one I do want to talk about is Nate, played by Netflix's own Lakeith Stanfield. I think this is like his fourth or fifth Netflix original film. Great actor, Lakeith Stanfield, obviously beyond Netflix as well.
Yep.
We don't really get a good look into him because basically we're only ever seeing him from Jenny's perspective. He's actually a guy who just seems a little bit stuck. He's not overly ambitious, but he craves direction. He certainly has his own self-confidence issues, and he struggles living in Jenny's shadow. But most of all, he kind of struggles with the idea of growing up and moving on. And it took Jenny a while, but it's more or less what was holding her back. And again, this is him in the context of his relationship with Jenny, because we don't see him outside of that at all. But I guess that's the strength of the story that they wanted to tell, was about someone who is a strong female lead who's choosing herself as opposed to, choosing a guy that's potentially holding her back.
I think you've said that really well. It was good to, purposely not show his point of view or his side of it, because we didn't need that. And they did a clear enough job of showing that he was the opposite of her. She was career driven. He struggles to know what he wants to do in life, and that's all you really need to know with him. And we could live through her moments with him to get an understanding of, the highs and the lows that they experienced, and giving adding an extra layer or context to where he's at. Probably wasn't, we learned enough. We didn't need to know anymore.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're right.
Good. And any other characters?
No, there's not really. You got anyone?
No, I was just going to mention briefly the director, Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, directing debut, currently in production on a second feature called Strangers, which has a couple of Netflix familiars in it. It's got Maya Hawke who was in the recent Fear Street, as well as Camila Mendes, who was from Perfect Date. She was the good-looking chick that the dude left and just made out with randomly.
That's right. That was a bad scene.
Yeah, it was a very bad scene. But mostly known for writing, I think. So, wrote the screenplay for Unpregnant, which is a really good film from last year. If anyone wants to check that out, and I think has written the upcoming Thor sequel, Love and Thunder. So, some big credits there.
Well, having a look, she's only really been prevalent in the last few years, and then mainly with writing and producing a bit more directing to come. But God, that's a good get. Is the Thor sequel?
Yeah. Really good. Yeah. And like Unpregnant, very, very funny too. A lot of those sort of one-liners that we see from Erin's character. So you can sort of see what's going on. Good. All right. Time to talk about some scenes. What are some ones that you enjoyed?
You know what's interesting with this film? When I watch a film for this podcast, I try not to take too many notes because I like to be in the film. But I tend to just jot down every now and then a scene that sticks with me, or a scene that I don't like, so we can talk about it. I have never watched a movie in the 150 odd that we've done where I've written less. This movie I just kind of just sat and watched, and I didn't hate it and I didn't like it. There's nothing really that stood out. So retrospectively, I did like the scene where, and at the time I did like it, where I've forgotten her name again, where Blair breaks up with her boyfriend and he's just like, oh, thank God. I thought that was quite a funny little realization, because I must admit it tricked me to thinking it was going to be the exact opposite. So I thought that was really clever, and a good nod to the fact that because that could have made guys look really pathetic in this, but it's good, just like, you know what, guys and girls both get stuck in this rut and they just need the confidence to do something about it. So I like that. And I did like the ending at Washington Square Park with her girls all coming together and her basically, pulling off the Band-Aid and saying, "Nah, it's done. I've come to peace with it, and I'm moving on." So I like that too.
Good. I'm going to start with a little bit of a language warning, because I'm going to quote a couple of the lines that made me laugh in this one. And Good. It started off early, and that maybe that's why I got into it so quickly, because we see Jenny sitting at this train station with this random chick at the start, complaining about her breakup. One of those things, just you see often in movies with, pouring your soul out to someone that you don't even know. And this random chick just says to her, what man doesn't want to put his dick in your mouth with those pretty teeth chomping on his dick? And I was killing myself laughing. I was like, wow, what sort of movie are we in for here? I thought that was quite funny. And then again, Blair's partner throughout, he was over the top, but he just comes in and with this one line where he gives it his really gross kiss, and he just goes, I just creamed my PJs.
He was pretty funny, actually.
It just made me laugh. I thought the flashbacks were a standout for me in this one too. The memories of Jenny and Nate, they're well done, and I particularly liked the one where he says, "I love you," and she didn't know what to say back. And often we see, this is a reverse situation that we often see in films, where more often than not in films, it's the female saying it, it's the male that sort of is the one that's hesitant with it. So it was really nice to see it sort of that reverse, and then, to such a serious moment that you feel that awkwardness for him to go in the shower, and she followed him in the shower and scares him, and he gets the soap in his eyes. It was just really relatable. I got soap in my eyes. I don't know. I don't know.
No, you're right.
I was into this. Like I said, a lot of Erin's lines were just good. I think one that really stood out to me was that grief is an emotion best served with a side of stiff dick. That was great. I enjoyed there's a scene where they pop into a service station or a gas station, and they just break into song. I was like, oh, this could be a bit corny. And then when the the worker there sort of comes in with these lines talking about, pay for your munchies and get out. You're scaring my cat. He's like, this ain't no karaoke bar. I was killing myself laughing. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And finally, that Jenny's on the train writing, and she's writing this sort of summary of the relationship. And I wrote it down because I wanted to, like, this was a wow moment for me. I was like, wow, that was so good. I think she said, one more kiss, one more meal, then we can part. Go to bed one more time. My hope is if we add up one mores, they will equal a lifetime and never have to let go. This isn't real. No more one mores. We didn't just grow apart. We grew up. Sometimes things don't break, they shatter. Remember how beautiful it was. We were magic forever. And I was like, that just got me. That got me the feels. I was like, that's just such a good way of summarizing. And maybe because I was into this story so much, I thought it was lovely. It's
really good. And it also, obviously it rings true for so many people, because even at that point, you're still not sure which way she's going to go with this. And the way she defines it is, okay, she's basically saying, like, I know we should break up, but you know what, I just can't. Let's just do one more, and all of a sudden, you know what, we can make this work. But her ability to say, like, it was perfect while it lasted, but it doesn't last forever. It's really good. It's really good writing.
I agree. Completely agree. All right, sorry, took up a bit of time. What didn't you like in this one?
No, and again, there wasn't much. I think, again, I probably didn't enjoy. Not enjoy. I didn't really like. I'm clutching at straws, but the constant drug use and referencing got a little bit tiresome for me. I didn't think it was as important to the story, and I almost want to think that, like, it didn't really even come full circle, that they had a big thing where they were off their face and did the wrong thing. I think the only thing I could say was that scene where they went to Aaron's partner's house, Leah maybe, and then they were obviously pretty intoxicated. But that's the only real ramifications we got from them doing it all. But it was so highly referenced throughout the whole film.
Usually that's a prude old me comment.
No, it sounds prudish. And I don't mind. Like, I've got no problems with movies that are with drugs and alcohol. They get people off their face and do funny things. I'm all for that. But this was kind of like, we just got to keep referencing drugs just so, like, all the young people know that we're being cool and we're referencing it, but then not really doing anything with it. That's probably more it.
Cool. Good. The only thing that I didn't really like in this was they made a comment about Kanye West being the secret headliner for this gig. So I was like sitting there going, sweet, Kanye's going to be in this, and he wasn't, and that upset me. Big letdown.
Yeah, Kanye's never doing this kind of movie. He's a weird dude.
Exactly. All right. Well, what's this one trying to say? What are some themes or some ideas?
Yeah, there's a couple of really strong ones, and that idea of growing up. And when I say growing up, it's from, like, your 20 somethings into actually what you want to do with your life. This is not teenage growing up. And being okay if you still don't have all the answers, but not losing sight of what you love and what makes you tick, and allowing that to be your guide rather than what you think you should be doing. Because basically all three of them are doing what they think they should be doing as opposed to what they want to do, and they break out of that rut. So, and finally, it's just that big old fat juicy theme of friendship, and the value of that I'm always there for you type friend, and how being that friend actually has benefits for you as well. On the flip side, with Blair, like, she's just doing the right thing for her, but it's turning out to give her the benefits of the friendship too. But yeah, that friendship is so palpable in your 20s and such a big part of your life, and I think that's pretty well captured in this film.
Yeah, I don't have too much to offer. You've mentioned that bond of the female friendships, that idea of change, loss, growing up. They're not going to be young forever, and getting it together, moving on, which you've all said in different words anyway. And the last thing is, I guess, what do you want out of life? Like, what do you need to do? Do you need to be successful in your work? Do you need to be with someone that has similar career aspirations as you, or just what does work for you? Yeah.
I think one of the positives of it is that they didn't try and say too many things. It was really punchy on the things that was important.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, what did you take away from this one?
Yeah, this is probably me being a little bit overly negative, but I think I felt as though it was trying to be the more adult comedy for girls, with sort of the sex and the language and the drugs and the whole, we know how adults interact type setup. But then it still wanted to play in the romancy chick flick type space. And I just don't know how well that meshed for me. And it seemed to, and I can understand why it did resonate with other people, yourself included, but obviously the ratings that we've seen, and a few reviews that I read, that it really did resonate for people. But for me, it just felt it was like kind of in between, and those two didn't work as well together as it could have.
Fair. I thought that the music in this one kept the narrative going pretty well. There were lots of good songs that sort of stuck with the moment of what the characters were doing on screen. And I think that helped tell the narrative and progress it pretty well too. Especially, there was the scenes of them dancing together in the kitchen with montages and things. And I just thought it was well done.
Yeah, good call.
Did you go on IMDb to check anyone out?
I actually didn't. I suppose most of the main characters I knew. Yeah, no, I didn't actually go on.
Yeah, same. So question time. Is there anything you wanted to ask?
I do. I'm torn on this. What are your thoughts on the title?
It's a very good question.
It's broad.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the title?
We'll jump in now. So I do put questions on social media to go with the thing.
That's
so
right. Okay.
I was going to put this one at the end, but we'll talk about it now. So who is the someone great relating to in the film? Is there anyone in particular, or is it that you don't need someone great in your life, that you are that someone great yourself? Is that what this film's trying to say? Is that
that's after watching it, that's how I take it. Like it's basically the title is basically you are someone great. Almost that's kind of how I sort of see it.
Yeah.
Which is fine with me, but I think still outside of that, the title it's not a sticky title.
No.
I have to keep sort of checking what the title was called for doing this episode, because it just doesn't stick with me. And at the time I was thinking throughout the whole film, like, so who's someone great? Because if we're trying to say like, and this is like the real romance side of things, if she stays with Lakeith Stanfield's character, I'm like, I don't know if he's someone great unless he's going to do something really good. And I'm just trying to, I'm like, is she someone great? Does that work? I don't know. So it just confused me a little bit, but it was fine.
I agree, because I was talking to a colleague in the office at work, and they're always interested in these types of films on Netflix. And I was like, I actually enjoyed this one. And I was like, I can't remember what it was called, so I had to jump onto our spreadsheet of the list of films to be like, oh, that's what it's called. So I completely agree that the title doesn't really stick there. Is there? Who was your favorite girl character in this one out of the three? Which one? I think you've probably already answered this a little bit anyway. The one that stuck with you most. It
was probably Erin. I probably related more to Blair than anybody else, to be perfectly honest. Maybe I'm a bit of a Blair. But, Erin was the most interesting character for me.
I agree, and I just wanted to. I think I was on the same page. I think that. And I think I mentioned that before. I really enjoyed that arc of her coming around and becoming open with her partner, and being willing to go and meet her friends. I just thought that was a big step for her.
Yeah, and I think I like Jenny. Like when I really think about it, the character's good. I didn't love, and I like Gina Rodriguez as well, but I think she just overdid it and kind of annoyed me a little bit. But I like that. Like what a great character she is as well. Really.
Good. All right. Well, I think we're ready to put this one all together, where we come up with a score out of 5 to try and come up with an average. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I've alluded to it, but this was just a movie for me. Not bad, not good. I was happy to sit there for 90 minutes and watch it, but I wouldn't rush back to it or highly recommend it. I liked the characters, and I did like they all had sort of separate arcs. I just never really felt a huge connection with any of them, and I felt like I was constantly on the outside looking in, which is a wanky way to put it, but it's probably the best way to sum it up. And I'm giving it 2.5 stars.
Nice. I obviously enjoyed it a bit more than you did. I had a lot of fun, had a lot of good laughs. The chemistry between the three characters was great. I enjoyed the flashbacks. Often I don't, and I thought these were a good way of telling the story. I do recommend this. And I was as after I finished watching this, I was like, I don't know whether it was the mood or the state of mind I was in, but I was sitting there going, this is almost a 4-star film for me. But I'm going to give it a 3.5. So I'm going to bring it down. So that gives it a 3 for us. Which
You're allowed to.
No,
this is your set it up.
I'd already decided before we started talking that it was only going to be a 3.5. So it's okay. But I did toss and turn. So excellent chat. We're on socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to pop that question up, is what do you think about the title? And we're back again next week for a Spanish comedy from 2019 called Despite Everything. It's directed by Gabriela Tagliavini, and it stars Blanca Cerez, Macarena Garcia, Amala Salamanca, and Belen Cuesta. So that's what we've got next week.
You can give them a good practice before next pod.
Yeah, thanks. I will. I'll hyphenate them. That was good. I was a bit surprised though. I thought that you were going to be all on board, but didn't work out that way.
No, I just didn't. Yeah, it didn't drag me in. It was fine. I can't stress that enough, but it just didn't drag me in.
That's all good. I'm just surprised that I liked it. So yeah,
roll with it, mate.
Good. Well, as usual, it's been good, and I'll see you next week.
See you there, mate.